Hey, Paul.
Hello, Chris. Hello, Chris.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Yeah. So, are we? Can you hear me? Okay. See me? Okay.
Yeah, I can hear you. Sorry I didn't answer you earlier on Twitter. I really never open Twitter ever. So,
Yeah.
but if you have the list of questions, if you have like it on a Google Doc somewhere that you could share, or you can send it to email right now too, and I'll.
Okay. Actually, in that Twitter message thread that we are in, there's a link. There's a link to the document that I put onto Google Drive, so you should be able to just click and open it from there.
Great. To do that and get started. So, do you have any preference if we are live on Facebook or YouTube, or it doesn't matter?
It's your call. So this will be a little bit of a different format for me because usually I I do this as a podcast. So what I was thinking is if you want to just introduce this session the way you normally would with your lives, and record it and give me the audio for that, and then I can go back and edit that later and edit in my own introduction for the podcast. So. And I think since we are dual purposing this, then we should probably each of us give a bit of a self introduction as to who we are. Yeah. So so the things that I thought we could frame the discussion around were as you suggested. So what business skills do successful ESL teachers need to develop?
Yeah.
So that was the topic you suggested, and I think it's a good one. And the way I think of it is that there are probably four competency areas, one being teaching, of course, the others being marketing, sales, and even compliance, like admin, paying your taxes and complying with all the laws and that sort of thing. So maybe those are the four things, and also talk about in your experience, perhaps what are the ways in which teachers feel feel troubled or worried, or it's kind of the stress issues that they have around those 4 points. And maybe we can talk about some of the solutions for that, whether that be just whether it be hiring a business coach like yourself, or hiring in someone else as a VA or somebody from Fiverr, or maybe it's just a mind shift that's needed. So that was the way I was thinking about doing this anyway.
Perfect. Yeah, I think you can just go with whatever you wanted to do. Okay. Ask whatever questions, and we'll.
All right.
That's how you want it, anyways. Real authentic for your podcast, right?
Yeah. And you're an old hand at this, I'm sure. So yeah. So
cool.
maybe so I'll be
okay. So then I'll present it as we've brought you on. You're asking some questions, and for our live program, that'll be enough. And then. Yeah. For yours, you'll just cut everything before your first question, put your intros in, and then.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Pretty much, yeah. Pretty much, that's what it is, yeah.
All right, then I will send this live right now. Let's just do Facebook. And.
Sorry, it's Chris Americos. Did I get the pronunciation right now?
Yeah, Chris Americos.
Americos, okay.
Yeah. Let's see. Teaching Revolution.
And it's BabelTEQ is the name of my company, which some people,
okay.
yeah, Babel.
I was going to say Babel.
No, as in Babel, as in table. So.
Okay, BabelTEQ, got it. All right. Well.
You said Facebook Live. Did you say?
Yeah, I'll just fill in the details when this page loads, and then I'll let you know before I press live. And Babel is spelled capital B and then lowercase a, b, e, l, and then T, E, Q are all capitalized?
Correct. Yes, that's right. Yeah.
All right, we're ready to go live.
Okay.
All right, great. It looks like we're live on Facebook now, and today with me we have Paul from BabelTEQ. Paul has graciously agreed to come on and have a discussion with me around the skills that teachers need in order to succeed, not only as a teacher, but also in business and representing themselves. So Paul, I'm gonna let you take it away from here, and I'm really excited to do this.
Hi, Chris. Yeah, thanks for having me on your live stream. So this is a little bit of a different format for me, because usually I have a podcast. So I thought that perhaps we could just start by me telling your followers who I am, and then perhaps you can do a little bit of a self-intro for yourself.
Absolutely. When we messaged each other about this
Yeah.
meeting, I went and I watched some of your previous listened to some of your previous podcasts, and that really got me interested, because you're talking about the topics that a lot of teachers don't even think about, and it is related more to representing yourself and getting the most that you can out of teaching, right? You can expand on that.
Well, so my company, BabelTEQ, is a project that I've launched quite recently in the last couple of months, which is aimed at helping online ESL teachers who really want to genuinely become independent and start their own profitable and sustainable online business. So my background is I come from Australia originally, from a corporate background. I moved to Japan in the early 2000s with the goal of teaching business English over here, and so I did that for a few years. And but I always felt as though that the whole language training industry is going to move online. It just seemed obvious to me that there was a lot of flaws in the bricks and mortar business model, and so I wanted to do something in that space and create a kind of online platform of my own. But the problem was I didn't have the technical skills that were required to do that at that point. And the internet back in the early 2000s was a very different environment to what we have now. So so I had to go and actually like learn how to code, learn how to manage web hosting and all of that. So, and in the process of going through that journey, I discovered that I actually really enjoyed it, and also that there are a lot of other business people who were in a similar situation who needed some technical support in getting themselves online. So that led me off to on a career of becoming a web consultant, a WordPress consultant, and also a marketing consultant. And I've basically been doing that ever since, although I've continued doing teaching as well on the side as a side gig. And then in 2020, the pandemic happened, and suddenly everybody jumped online. And so and what I was hearing from, even actually before the pandemic, I was hearing from a lot of friends in the online ESL industry that, we don't really enjoy working for some of these companies, that the conditions seem to be getting worse and worse every year, and we're not really treated as professionals or treated how we would like to be. So a lot of them were expressing to me a desire to actually go online as their own, like as an independent freelancer, but they were struggling with many of the technical and business aspects of that around getting getting a site online and getting a marketing system that worked. So that's what gave me the inspiration to create BabelTEQ, which is a platform that I hope provides high converting sales funnels for online ESL teachers. And that's where we are today.
That's great.
And I have a blog and podcast as well, with, as you mentioned, lots of articles and interviews with teachers who have successfully started their own online business. So I think it's very important to show people these success stories of teachers who are earning good money and having successful, sustainable, independent careers.
Absolutely. And yeah, I looked at the blog and podcast, and it's very interesting and useful. So I recommend that people go check that out. Yeah, and we'll include the link to that under the video. We'll put this on YouTube and everything. It'll be under under the video. So the sentiment that you expressed, that other teachers expressed to you, and then led you down this path. I think everyone out there who's a teacher online has been in the last 3-4 years has felt the same feelings, right? And some people have done something to change it, and some people have kind of just griped about it. And
Right.
it's great to see that we have people like you who are creating solutions to the problem, right?
Yeah. So that's what I'm passionate about. I think I've always been attracted to helping people achieve their dreams through the power of the internet. And I think that a lot of ESL teachers are really looking for some change point in their lives, and looking for financial freedom and independence and so on. So that's those are the people who I really want to help in some way.
That's great. Awesome. So as I understand, we're going to be talking about some skills that are important for teachers to know, and you've already brought up some of them. You said you had tech ache. You didn't understand a lot of the and you had this period of time where you had to learn all that stuff, right?
Yeah.
So in my personal experience, it's exactly the same. I'm doing a JavaScript course now still, and so I have some like web development projects. We're building a mobile app for teachers to teach through, and we're building something for our own website. And so, yeah, it can be really confusing and really difficult for a new teacher. And one thing that I recommended to teachers in my coaching program recently was to, like, from the very beginning, when you're making your business model, you have to incorporate your tech limits. You know what you can, what you know, and what you don't know. And so you should clearly identify, like, I'm not going to be able to do more than drag and drop to design my website, for example. So I should completely rule out then having a person build a custom website for me. I should just go to a place where I can drag and drop, learn how to drag and drop the best that I can, and focus on the skills that make money come in, like sales, marketing, right?
Yeah, that's right. And I think this kind of comes back to the topic that we're going to talk about tonight, which is that there are certain skills that you need to develop a successful business. Teaching is one of them, of course. So it kind of goes without saying that you need to be a competent teacher, but there are other skills as well that are related to, like, sales, related to marketing, related to admin, compliance, dealing with tech issues, like you said, Chris. And so there's an old saying that you should sell your strengths and buy your weaknesses, which means that sometimes, think about, like, where your core strengths are and how you can maximize those, and don't get kind of bogged down in the other things that perhaps it would be better to just hire someone to do for you.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Know when to outsource, know when to delegate.
Yeah.
But at the beginning, that's a big challenge for teachers, right? Because you're on such a tight budget, because money is such a big issue. And so you have to find all those free ways and maximize those so that you can be in a position to delegate, right?
That's right. Yeah. But I mean, even around things like the teaching aspect itself. So, like, some people, when they're first going independent, they worry about, how am I going to build a curriculum? How am I going to create a unique course materials for my niche? And one of the solutions might be that you go onto Fiverr or Upwork, and you actually hire someone who's good with that kind of stuff, and help you develop a curriculum. Of course, you're gonna need to be the driver behind it, but there are people who have those kind of content creation skills, and don't necessarily cost a lot of money. So and I think the same applies for things like your marketing, and so that's another thing that I think a lot of teachers maybe feel insecure about as well, is, like, they don't really understand organic social media and how they can use that to really drive their drive potential leads to their sales funnel. So like what's your experience? What has been your experience with the kind of issues that that new teachers really feel, concerned about in terms of like their business strengths?
Yeah, from the business side, I think you've touched on two of the main ones. That
Yeah.
it's the website
Mm,
and it's the curriculum, or like the
mm,
foundation of the product, let's call it.
yeah. Yeah.
Uh, so, and I think in the end, people just make it out to be much bigger than it has to be, because
Right.
you can have a very simple website, and you should be thinking of what of the functions that the website serves for you, the purpose that it serves for you, instead of how cool it looks, because you can have a one pager that converts and you're fine.
Yeah. 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 And that's actually that's actually a really good point. Um, so like what tends to happen is that people they create their first website, and it ends up looking a bit like a Swiss Army knife. You've got you maybe a nice profile picture up there and a "Hi, welcome to my website" headline, and maybe there's like some Instagram feed on there, and maybe links to your blog posts and navigation to other parts of the site. And so as I said, it looks a bit like a Swiss Army knife. It's trying to do a lot of different things, and so Swiss Army knives are great, but sometimes you want a specialized tool to do a specialized job. So if you're going in for brain surgery, you hope that your surgeon wasn't using a Swiss Army knife. You'd want him to be using a scalpel, right? So if you're a new independent online teacher, I think the number one challenge is to get students. That's it. I mean, without students, you don't have a business. So a sales funnel is usually supported by landing pages. Now, a landing page is a little different from your generic website. A landing page is usually quite simplified, and there's a lot of the distractions removed from it, and it's got a very clear offer, and it's got a very clear call to action. So you want people to come to that landing page and do one specific action, and it doesn't necessarily have to be a sale. So for somebody who's never heard of you before, it's kind of unrealistic to think that they're going to come to your website, see your course for $800 and say, "Oh, okay, that sounds good. I'll sign up right away." They don't know who you are, and you don't have some multi-million-dollar brand name behind you. So it takes a while to actually warm up people and get them to move step by step through that sales journey, from somebody who's never heard of you before all the way to the point where they are willing to take first of all, that they're willing to subscribe for your content, and then that they're willing to take a trial lesson with you, and then become a customer, a repeat customer, eventually a very satisfied customer, and eventually an evangelical customer who's going to recommend you to all their friends. So that's the journey that you want to take them on. And so realistically, you need to have different landing pages and a different strategy for each step of that
Absolutely.
journey. So like I'm a big fan of email marketing, for example. So like I recommend to teachers that one of the first things that they should be doing is building their email marketing list, which means like having a page where you have some kind of a lead magnet. Okay, a lead magnet could be something like a downloadable PDF of the, it could be something simple like the 10 most common mistakes that people make with irregular verbs, something like that, something simple that they can download in return for an email. And then once you've got them in your email marketing list, you can then start to build up that relationship with them. So that's essentially what a sales funnel is.
Yep, absolutely. And I'd like to touch on two things that you said. Landing pages, yeah. This term, when we talk about it as marketing people to non-marketing people, they think it's some kind of like rocket science that you have to learn, but it's just a web page. Like a landing page is just a web page. It just serves a special purpose, and you want people to land there for a special purpose. And so when we talk about email marketing, though, this is a really interesting point that you brought this up, because we've been seeing in online marketing that email open rates have been dropping. And so email marketing I agree with you. It's still very effective and we should all be doing it. But a lot of people ask nowadays, like, what else should I be doing in addition to email marketing? Because we know that we're only going to reach maybe 20, 30% of the people. And that's like the higher numbers that we see statistically today, right?
Yeah. I mean, it is a numbers game. I think that's also worth remembering that when you post like organic, when you post on your social media platforms, I think on average the organic reach on something like Facebook, for example, if I was to go and put a post on my Facebook business page, then the reach is probably about 1%. Like Facebook organic reach is pretty terrible these days. So email, so the reach for email is still competitive with that.
Right.
And the other thing too, well, there's a couple of other points. One is that if you have an email marketing list, then that's something that you've always got. That's yours. No one can take that away from you. Versus like let's say you build up a list of contacts in your Facebook Messenger list, and you're really leaning into Facebook Messenger, and then tomorrow Facebook says, "No, we're going to do away with this." Well, suddenly your business has gone out the window, hasn't it? So you're always at the mercy, and this has happened with a lot of businesses. Whether it's Facebook changing their terms and conditions, whether it's like Google changing their algorithm, their search algorithm overnight. So anytime you're relying on a third party for your business model, you're on shaky ground.
Right.
And the third point is that I'm not sure how many people are aware of this, but there are a lot of changes coming around privacy and in terms of like cookie tracking. So
right.
a lot of the
Apple and Facebook right now.
That's right. Yeah.
Facebook ads are about to be revolutionized. Yep.
Well, that's right. Yeah, it's a Game of Thrones level battle between those two big companies right now. But I mean, I think we've all seen it coming, that people are more and more concerned about privacy, and so a lot of the it means that a lot of the retargeting strategies that people are used to doing through Facebook are going to become less and less effective over time,
Right.
because Facebook is just going to know that much less about what people do
Exactly.
online. So having an email marketing list has another benefit in that, and we're talking about a pretty decent list now. I'm saying, like, when you get up to around about 1,000 names on your list, you can use that list for remarketing purposes. Like, you can just upload your email list, and then Facebook can do something called a lookalike audience. They can look at those names and say, okay, we know who these people are, we know what they like, we know their behaviors. Here's 10,000 other people that are just like them. So Absolutely. It has that benefit when you've built up your list to that level, which you can do within a reasonable space of time.
Yeah, definitely. 1,000 names in the list is like, anybody should be able to do that relatively quickly.
Sure. If you've got a good lead magnet, that should be, like I said, a downloadable PDF or a video, like that you want to give access, like you have to provide an email address in order to get access to the video. Those kind of things. With those kind of things, you can get to 1,000 email addresses pretty quickly.
Absolutely. So I realized that I didn't introduce myself for the podcast later. So I'll go ahead and just do that quickly.
Yeah, please do.
Yeah. So thanks a lot for doing this, Paul. And so my name is Christopher Huntley, and I created a brand called Chris Americos. And I also have another type of business, which is called teachingrevolution.com, teaching-revolution.com. And so basically I have two sides to my business. I teach students and I coach teachers. And on the teacher side, we work with teachers with similar, the similar group of people that Paul works with, who are setting up or growing their online teaching business, and they would like some insights from someone who's done it before. At this point, I run 5 online schools, and I originally started offline. I had an offline brick and mortar business in Russia, and we did that for 8 years. And then I moved back to the States, and I was kind of like, now what? And so I had to kind of jump into online from zero, even though I had that experience. And it was really an interesting experience for me. So then I got to help other people go through that. And that's been really exciting. But on our student side, just to give you an idea of what kind of businesses we're doing or running. Last year, for example, our business did $1.1 million in sales. And like, I just opened up our lead list right now. We have 1,144,092 names in our email marketing list. So we've been doing it for a couple of years, for about 2 years full time. And there are just some like underlying principles that Paul is touching on in each of his each of his podcasts, each of his blog posts. And I really think that, going through what Paul has to offer, going through what we have on teachingrevolution.com will definitely help independent teachers who are just getting started, because Paul and I we're just getting started not long ago. The online realm, it's not controlled by some huge people who can block you from doing anything. You have a lot of freedom to go out there and maneuver yourself, right? So
that's right. Yeah. So so with your courses for teachers, Chris, so do you touch on things like sales as well, like closing sales, like closing those strategy calls with potential students? Because that's also something that I hear about from teachers that they struggle a bit with. I think that a lot of teachers have got a very negative attitude to the whole sales aspect of business, but it's a necessary aspect, isn't it?
Absolutely. Yes. There's no reason to think that you should be shy or like afraid of talking about selling your product, right? Especially if you as a teacher have a product that improves people's lives and helps them. And as a teacher, that's what you should be selling, right? So so if you really get results, then you shouldn't be ashamed of selling it. And that's kind of what customers feel, I think, that if you feel ashamed of selling your product, then they're going to think, well, what's wrong with this product? Right.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So,
I mean, I'm not a smooth talker, as anyone who's probably listens to my podcast would know by now. And I'm a bit of an introvert. I'm usually at the party. I'm usually the guy who's checking out the cheese platter in the corner. But I love selling. I mean, if I could do it, I would do sales calls all day, every day. And I think the reason for that is that I know my skill set, and I know how I can help other people get what they want with that skill set. I know how I can improve their lives. And so because I like to think of myself as a generous person, why wouldn't I want to help them? Why wouldn't I want to be part of their success story? So I really enjoy that aspect of my work, of getting to know a potential student and finding out why they need to use English. It might be for to get a promotion or go on an overseas business assignment or whatever, and then explain to them the ways that I can solve the pain points that they're experiencing.
yeah.
So I really enjoy it. I think a lot of teachers maybe also feel uncomfortable about setting a price, like talking about prices, like that's it feels kind of uncomfortable, that perhaps they're concerned that a student's going to say, "Oh, you're too expensive." And
people tell me that all the time. All the time.
But the answer to that is that you're always going to have people who are telling you that you're too expensive at every price point. Like if I say, well, my lessons are $50 an hour, someone's going to say, well, why can't you do it for 25? And then if I say, well, it's 25, someone's going to say, why can't you do it for 10? So you're always going to get objections at every price point. And there's always going to.
And it really is every price point. I sold a product for $1 and people told me it was too expensive.
Right. That's right. So so I think that there's always going to be objections at every price point. So I think that it's better to like just turn that conversation around, and instead of having a conversation about price, have a conversation about value and what value you can provide for that price.
Yeah.
So just to to put it in perspective, so like I don't know how much you pay for a haircut, Chris. I pay about $10 to get my haircut. Well, actually, I did before the pandemic. Now my wife cuts it for free, so we're all learning. We're all learning new skills, aren't we? So but that's about how much I'm prepared to pay for a haircut, $10. But yeah. I know there are guys in my neighborhood who pay $100 for a haircut.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's a factor of 10. So so what does $100 haircut look like compared to a $10 haircut? Well, I go in there and they go, right? Well, that's it. I mean, I go in there, they go snip, 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 and I'm out of there in 10 minutes. The $100 guy, he goes in and they give you a shampoo. They use like treatments, use a special machine, stimulates the scalp. They give you a shoulder massage. They give you cake and coffee served in like expensive china. They give you they laugh at your jokes and give you a witty conversation. The whole thing takes about 2 hours. But it's, at the end of the day, it's still a haircut. So it's all of these extra things that change that perception of value. Absolutely. And from a marginal cost point of view, it's not necessarily that much more for the vendor to provide them. And so I think the same applies to us as teachers. We should be looking for ways that we can provide extra value to justify the higher premiums. And there will be people who are prepared to pay that.
Yeah, definitely.
It's like the old Gucci saying, the quality is always remembered long after the price is forgotten. So
right. Yeah, I absolutely agree with you. And another thing that I like to do is I don't like to talk about price at all on the call. Right. When they ask about the price, I say, oh, all of the options are listed here, and I send them a link to a web page. And then I let the page argue with them about the price.
Right. Yeah. So what? And I guess what you're doing, what you're saying by doing that, is that the price is not something that's part of our discussion. It's non-negotiable, right? So
something like this too. Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. We're not going to have a discussion about whether I can give you a 10 or 15% discount necessarily. So. And those kind of customers who do want to haggle with you are probably not going to be great customers for you in the long run.
Right. So sometimes it's a cultural thing, but sometimes it's, but most of the time you're right. Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, so in our you were asking before about if we talk about sales in our trainings and our programs. Yeah. And so, our main program is called Teaching Business Catalyst, and it has 6 parts or 6 weeks. The first week is basically the foundations of the business, finding your niche, finding your target audience, creating a marketing message, and this kind of stuff. Week 2, we build a product, which means we create a curriculum and we decide what this thing is that we're selling. And by the end of week 2, we have something that we can go out and sell. And week 3 focuses just on sales. We have a sales script. And we have 2 sales scripts, one for selling to English speakers and one for selling to non-English speakers. And then in week 4, we talk about organic marketing. In week 5, we talk about paid advertising, Google and Facebook. And then in week 6, we talk about stabilizing what we've built and then scaling it. So that those are like the six areas of knowledge that we focus on in our program.
Sounds quite. It sounds very comprehensive. Then, yeah. So, it's amazing. I think what opportunities there are with social media now to really, broaden your reach and get to your potential student prospects. I found in my experience that if you're selling sort of vocational English training programs, one of the best platforms is LinkedIn. Yeah. Do you use LinkedIn much yourself?
I don't, but it's Like I have a task today of starting to learn a LinkedIn course that I've purchased.
Right.
So
Yeah,
yes,
I was one of these guys who, kind of forgot about LinkedIn as well. I just thought it was like a glorified place to put your resume. But
right.
in the last 6 months, my eyes are really opened up that, like, wow, LinkedIn is a real gold mine for
Yeah.
finding potential prospects, for finding potential students, because you really can laser focus on particular industries. Like, say, for example, I had a chat with a teacher a few months ago now, and she was thinking about starting a niche and like a niche. So I know some of you say niche. I prefer niche.
I prefer niche too.
There, good. Okay, birds of a feather, good. Yeah. So anyway, she wanted to start a niche and her background was in radiology, and so she said, well, I studied radiology at university, and so I'm thinking about maybe doing some English training programs for radiologists, because radiologists need to go on, they need to go to international seminars, and they need to talk with their colleagues, and English is the common language, of course. And so, and she was like a little concerned about how she could find radiologists who might want to take her lessons. And I said, well, take a look at LinkedIn, and you can just find thousands, and then it's just a process of reaching out and making that one-to-one connection with them.
The prospect.
Start a conversation going. Yeah. So I have a blog article about finding students through LinkedIn if anyone's interested.
Yeah, I checked that out actually, and that rekindled the flame within me that I need to learn more about this.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was great.
Yeah, and I think paid marketing, I think, it's a way of paid marketing is another option, but my view about paid like pay-per-click ads through like pay-per-click Facebook, pay-per-click Google.
Mm-hmm.
It's a bit like gasoline. If you're pouring gasoline into a puddle of water, nothing's going to happen. But if you've got a spark, if you've got a fire, and you pour gasoline on there, you're going to get a bigger fire. So I think it's very important to have a validated niche in the beginning, or have a validated target market, and have a sales funnel that works, by the way. So if you've got just a generic web page and you're sending your traffic there, you're probably just wasting money. But
Exactly.
if you have but if you have a targeted, validated niche, and you have a sales funnel that you've tested and you know works at converting people, getting them through that sales process, then paid marketing, pay-per-click marketing is a way that you can really scale that up.
And it's really important that people know that starting teachers understand what you've just said, because you have to have that proof of concept before you go to paid advertising. If you, some people think, oh, I'm just going to boost this post, it's just $5, $10. To me, that's $5, $10 spent on nothing. So that's what I think. So people will ask me in the beginning, well, won't it help me just get a couple clients real quick if I just boost a couple posts? No. What's your strategy?
No, that's right. So Google ads in particular can be a very quick way to burn a lot of money for no result if you're not careful. Even Facebook, I think, is the same. Like, as you said, like just boosting posts. If there's no strategy behind it, you're probably wasting a lot of money. So, and I think it's important too to recognize that Facebook ads and Google ads are two very different beasts. So when someone goes onto Google, they might be searching for how to use past, present, or even like something perhaps a bit more functional, like how to speak better, how to present well in English. Okay, so they've got a very clear problem in mind that they're trying to solve. So that means that they've got what we call very high search intent. Right. They basically got their credit card in their hand, and they're ready to pay for a solution. So on the other hand, people go onto Facebook like to see funny cat videos or see what, see drunken photos of their friends and that sort of thing. So the search intent is not necessarily there.
Right.
So I think that so you've got to, first of all, got to understand that search is very different from just social media browsing, and have a different strategy for each of those, because both strategies can work. What I think works pretty well with social media is, rather than sending that traffic to a sales page where you're asking them for money, is send them to like your lead magnet, like advertise that you've got a something free to provide, some free resource, and people are more likely to click through on that, say, oh, okay, this is interesting, I want to read this, I want to watch this, here's my email. And now you've got them on your email marketing list.
Exactly. And then if you want to send them directly to the sales page, you do that with your retargeting.
Exactly. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So you get them through. And so with email marketing, of course, you can also set up automated sequences. So, first of all, you give them the thing that you've promised, and then follow that up, with perhaps telling them more about your credentials, and then follow that up with maybe offering them some more free content. Maybe follow that up by explaining, what the services are that you're offering. And then at some point in that process, of course, you've got to actually ask the student, ask the customer to commit to the next stage of the sales funnel, which might be to book like a free strategy call, or to book a trial lesson or something.
Exactly. Yeah. So throughout our talk, I've noticed two really interesting things that I think is good to highlight for the people who are listening or watching. One of them is that when Paul was talking about his story, Paul, when you were talking about your story, you made the statement like, then I decided to become the guy who helps teachers solve this problem. And like, this is a really important moment to highlight, that in both of our stories, where we made a decision at some point where it's not just a job, but it's like a lifestyle choice. It's like a career and professional choice, that this is what I do. And I think that was really the foundation of all of the success, is that if you only have one foot in, then you're not all the way in, and people can feel that, and you're not going to have all of the success that you could have. So I think that's really important.
You've got to show up. You've got to show up and be authentic about what you're trying to do, I guess, is the message there.
Yeah. And the second thing that I'd like to highlight is the element, like our emotion of surprise at things that come up, like LinkedIn. Like like I knew that it was important somewhat, but it wasn't really, like, it was on my radar, but then I had to learn more. And so we were both surprised, but that doesn't mean that we just blocked it out. It was like, oh, time to learn more. Right. So
exactly.
As a successful teacher, you're just always learning. And at this point in my career, I consider myself having like a successful week if that week consisted of mostly reading books.
Yeah. I tell people that, well, people ask me like, what kind of education do you have? And well, I did go to university, but I tell people that every night I go to university. I go to YouTube University. So like every night after dinner, I'm usually watching some marketing presentation by Seth Godin, or like Simon Sinek talking about leadership, or Neil Patel talking about SEO or something. So we live in a miraculous age where there's just so much information available out there, and there's a lot of it's for free. And so we're blessed. There's just so many there are so many resources available, information resources, and so we should be taking advantage of it.
Definitely.
Yeah. Time is the one thing. You can always go and make more money, but you can't make more time. So that's maybe that touches back on an earlier point that we made, is that you've got to decide where is the best use of your time, and what skills you should be developing, and what skills you should maybe be hiring out for. Yeah,
absolutely. Let's see. Did we touch on all of our topics that we had planned for today?
Yeah, I think so. I said at the beginning that I think there are like four core competencies for having a successful business. There's the operation side of it, which is teaching in our context. There's marketing, there's the sales. You know, those are, I think, no matter what business you're talking about, those are the three essential aspects. If you're failing in any of those three, then your business is really on rocky foundations. I guess the fourth one that is the least sexy of the four is the compliance aspect. You know, we live in a society, we do business in society, which means that we have to comply with laws and, you know, all those fun things like doing tax returns.
Right.
You know,
Just done that.
yeah. So I think that, you know, a lot of people, a lot of teachers maybe you know, have questions about what's the best way for them to structure their business, whether they should incorporate, or how they should go about, you know, paying taxes and that sort of thing. So I think that you know, an hour spent with an accountant can really pay off. So I think that in some of those compliance things, yeah, again, it's important to realize that, you know, you're not a tax expert, you're not a lawyer, and hire in the people who do have expertise when you need it.
Yeah, absolutely. I can also run through which kind of departments we have in our company at this level too. So like each of our schools has its own academic department. And then we have a support department that works with all of these schools in a similar way. And then we have, for HR, we don't really have a separate department. We just have one or two lawyers that we outsource to if we need contracts reviewed or if there's some kind of question or issue. Then we do the same kind of work with accountants, but we have an in-house bookkeeper. Then we also have like if you think of a marketing department, it should be really like sales, marketing, advertising, these three things. And then also maybe you would include PR in there. And then also maybe you would include part of social media in there. So marketing is this huge monster that a lot of people don't like it. They don't understand how to get started. And as you grow it, it's really important because how do you outsource someone choosing to spend $1,000 a day on ads or $2,000 a day on ads? How do you choose the right person for that responsibility, right? Or other questions like this.
Yeah, it can seem overwhelming, but I think you got to keep in perspective that marketing is really just about finding qualified potential customers for your business, and depending on what stage you're at in your business evolution, you've got different options. As far as social media goes, organic social media, I've always told clients of mine, like in website consulting, I've always told them that organic social media is something that really needs to be authentic. So, like, you know, it needs to be the voice that you're using in social media should be your own. But you can get people to help you out with the creatives and that sort of thing. But I think that a lot of the core messaging in social media needs to be your own.
Yeah, definitely. You have to remember your marketing message. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to contradict yourself there.
Yeah.
So,
well, you know, like if I was to do your social media, Chris, you know, I don't know enough about your company. I wouldn't be able to do it. I'd be faking it, right? So you've got people who you work with every day. You know, you've got people who know what's going on behind the scenes, and that's another thing that people want to see on social media these days too, is they want to see that they're doing business with real human beings. You know, we've all got, you know, we all, you know, live in neighborhoods. We've all got, you know, colleagues, and you know, see behind the scenes. And I think that's one of the ways that social media has really changed businesses.
Yeah, I was recently hiring an SEO expert, and I did that. I went to LinkedIn and I went to Facebook and I went everywhere and found their whole company and everybody who worked there. And I went through and I looked at all their profiles. And this was, I mean, this is just like standard practice for me at this point. If I'm going to do something with someone, I'm going to check everything. So, and if they don't have anything, then that's also questionable.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's just better to, it's better to bare your soul. I think in some ways, and you know, just accept the fact that some people are going to like you, some people aren't. No one's a perfect snowflake. We've all got our warts and bumps and so on. So I think just put it out there, because people do want to do business with people that they know, like, and trust. And
Yep.
one of the ways you can build that is by showing yourself as an authentic human being.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Going back to the departments too, I've actually been able recently to set up this web development department of my part of my company, and this is something that a lot of people I didn't think about this option for a long time. I was doing a lot of stupid manual tasks when I could have just paid a web developer a few $100s and solved this, decrease how much time I was spending, or how much time my team was spending on some tasks. And automation cannot be overrated. Like just removing the responsibility of pressing a button or sending an email or whatever. This is so important. And in the beginning, the best way for new teachers to harness the power of automation is to use a scheduling program. Just pay the $10 a month or $20 a month or whatever it is, and it will be the best decision of your life. If you are still writing people back and forth, and will 5 a.m. work? What about 8 p.m. on Tuesday? What about none of that? Like, I haven't done that.
Don't do that. Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that. I'm glad you made that point, because that's actually part of the platform which we provide at BabelTEQ, is it does include a calendar scheduling system. So when you get people into your sales funnel and you're sending them out those automated email responders, you can get them to the point where you're ready to send them to a booking page where they can book like a strategy session, or book their trial lesson, or book their first complete paid lesson, whatever your strategy is. But yeah, I agree 100%. This backwards and forwards, and like especially when we're dealing with multiple time zones. I mean,
Right.
Online teaching is a global business, so it's it can be challenging enough for you and I to organize a suitable time. So having a scheduling tool is definitely is definitely a way of taking out a lot of that wasted time and pain points.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And if you just compare a teacher who uses it and a teacher who doesn't, from the beginning, the teacher who uses it looks so much more professional to the client.
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, it might not seem like a big thing in the beginning when you've got no students, but when you start to get a few, things become real complicated real fast. So you need as you said, you need the tools in place to help you scale, and that's part of having a successful business.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, I think that we have covered this topic, and I mean, this is the kind of topic that you could go on and on and on for forever, or you could cover briefly like we've done, right? So but
it's a bit late here in Japan for me, so I might have to get my beauty sleep soon, I think.
All right, Paul. Well, hey, thanks a lot for coming on the video and doing the call and everything. And it was great talking to you, and I'm sure that we'll be in touch and have something again in the future.
Yeah, definitely hope so. Yes. All right. Thanks, Chris, and thanks for having me on your live stream.
All right. Take care. Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye-bye.